this 1931 Martin is in the shop for some repairs. I've tried this video. This is now my 4th day attempting to kind of make things work. I don't know how to do this sales pitch stuff. I just love what I do, and man, I just want to share this cool stuff that I get to see now after doing this for as long as I have. So, what's wrong with this guitar? Well, 1931 Martin OM body shape was the 2nd year of production in 31. There were 251 of these instruments made, which is super cool, and they retailed for about 50 bucks. A OM-18 went for $50 as well, and that's kind of what I'm assuming the price range was. There's no logo on the headstock, which is super rad. There's the banjo tuners, even better, and a stamped Martin logo on the back of the headstock. Its fretboard extension was cut off sometime in the 70s, early 80s for its repair. The original cleats and all that stuff. So I didn't do the tongue extension cut off. That was already done before me. But what that allows me to do is to explain why it's here. So at some point there had been a neck collision which made the neck go this way, which then forced the sound hole and that fretboard extension to break the wood here, basically right where there's no finish. There are 2 lines that go right down the side that were completely broke through, and then that piece of wood shoved itself into the sound hole area. So when this guitar arrived to me, it had just over a 1/16 of an inch here in the sound hole, where the wood had kind of protruded forward. There was about a 90-degree angle in the rosette, so instead of the circles coming around, they actually went down and then swooped in. I was able to draw that back with some heat and some ingenious clamping, TJ Thompson style, which is pretty fun but super scary to do. But yeah, I got mediocre results. The sound hole wood is now smooth. There's no issue. It doesn't catch on anything. But the rosette is a little bit wavy, which I'm okay with, to be honest. I don't want to overdo anything on an instrument repair like this, but I want to get it closer. So I was able to kind of correct that and at least have it look moderately normal. But that's fine. It's much better than what it was when it arrived. Why did that happen? In 1931, there was no upper transverse brace on these Martin guitars. There was no flat, long brace that goes all the way across the top. They added that in the years to come, but for now, this guitar didn't have it. What it did have was 200 thousandths diamond cleats that were put in at the neck reset, and they went right along the crack. But it just looked kind of big and bulky, and when I went to kind of touch to see how stable they were, just reaching my hand on the inside, I flicked one off and the other one came right off, so they were hardly attached. And that could be just because of age. It could have just been the install, but my guess is there was an air bubble in there because they didn't get clamped up strong enough, and over time it kind of worked its way through, and the glue had just dried up that they were kind of useless. Which is perfect, because I was able to then get in with a sanding block, sand the material away, meaning the remaining glue that was in there, and then I installed a TJ Thompson upper transverse repair brace. Now this is super thin. It is only 80 thou thick, which is, actually it might not be 80 thou. Let's calibrate my thing. Yeah, it's just over 80 thou thick, probably 85 thousandths. But it's got a big bevel here on each of the ends, and the grain is going laterally. It crosses over the space that I need to. Obviously it would be upside down. And the install would go like this. But it crosses over the space where I need to, which I know will keep the fretboard extension safe, as well as the rest of the guitar from dealing with the string torsion. But it doesn't go so far that it's kind of overdone. TJ invented, or not invented, but made an ingenious cowl to clamping jig to install this perfectly. So all I had to do was put it on, and then I could clamp it in, and I knew it would be dead flat and without any air bubbles all the way through. It was super fun to use, totally worthwhile getting. I used the medium block jig. Now, so that was what was behind the upper brace. So there is one upper brace. There's not the wide transverse brace, but there is one upper brace in these old Martins. In front of that brace, there were two of these half moon cleats as well, and one of them flicked right off. Again, just pulled right off. The other one I actually had great connection, and I had to peel off. So I sanded away the glue, and then I made a large TJ Thompson style pad that basically connects the two finger braces on the inside to the sides, and then I dyed it with some lacquer thinner and stain, just to kind of make it not be so shiny bright. I didn't go over the top. It's probably not as perfect as it could be, but it does the job. I actually beveled the filler piece too, so looking in the sound hole, you can't even see it. If you knew what you were looking for. So it's there. You can kind of tell it's there, but it's basically as hidden as it gets. But that will keep this from ever moving, and that covers the entire spot. When I pulled the neck, there was a hole here that you could literally just stick your finger through. The grain had kind of disconnected, and so I had to flatten that out and re-glue that before I glued that transverse brace. There is a crack here from the pick guard shrink here that has two cleats from that previous repair era. They look to be about the same, but they were about the same size, or the correct size for what I would put in, and they were down solid, so I just left them. The guitar actually came in because it needed a new bridge. There was a couple of gaps here that the owner had noticed. It was only playable in the first 2 frets, and it was a giant trampoline here. I mean, the strings were so high, it was crazy. The reason for that is because of that collision and that break. When you put a straight edge on, this is just a ruler, not a straight edge, and I know that. The ruler was only 1/16 of an inch off the top, which left almost, I can put my finger underneath here. It means that angle was changed that much. So it was completely unplayable. So it came in for a bridge repair, which when I looked at it is not the correct bridge. So instead of an oversized bridge, I put on this TJ Thompson 1931 slot through bridge, and it's period correct that way, and it's a smaller footprint. There is about 1/16 of an inch, maybe just a 32nd strong all the way around that you can see, but I'd rather leave that and know that my hide glue was gonna kind of keep this instrument more original than having this. The other disadvantage with this bridge is that it had been sanded flat at some point. They tried to lower the action on this bridge because the neck angle was so bad, and they were afraid to take the neck off. I've got the neck reset now so that it is about 30 thou over the top, which is what I like, perfect, plus or minus. But there is space there to build, so I should be able to make this thing play perfectly all the way up and down, even with the bar frets. So hopefully I've been adding photos of this repair, all of the patches that I hopefully didn't lose in their original position, so you can see kind of what I did, what's been done. The other thing I wanted to look at too is I love when these instruments, these old instruments come into the shop, is I measure them. I have a log of all the measurements for everything, and it helps me as a guitar maker to know what these old instruments kind of level out at. And by that I mean wood shrinks over time. Instruments kind of change their width and their lengths. So I wanted to check that quick. So when I was designing my instruments, I used this book a lot. So this is the Martin Guitars, a technical reference written by Richard Johnson and Dick Boak. This book is amazing. It gives you all the specs for all the instruments, which is incredible. the production numbers, the pricing. That's how I knew it was the second year for this model, and I knew that there were 251 instruments made. It's all from this book. But more importantly is in the back, there is a size-specific dimension chart for every instrument Martin makes. Now these may be just the modern measurements, and this instrument might be slightly less depending on, more or less depending on the mold and the twist of the wood. But I'm just going to take this as these are the measurements that were established as standard, and then we'll see how much this guitar varies. So the second half, let's just measure this guitar up quick, because we're done with the what's wrong with this guitar. It needed a neck reset, it needed crack repairs, and it needed a new bridge, and which has been, over the course of 6 months, kind of come together. So, measurements. The length for a Martin OM should be, the book says 19 3/8. And I'm going to look, and it's 19 7/32. So I am 5 32nds short, which is essentially 3/16 if you give me that 32nd. So nearly 3/16 shorter in length than what the factory chart says in the Martin book. The upper bout width was 11 13/32. And I've got 11 7/32, which is exactly 3/16 short. The lower bout is supposed to be, supposed to be 15 1/4 inches, and it measures at 15 1/16. So it is 3/16 of an inch short as well. So we have, the length is 5 32nds short, almost 3/16. The width is 3/16 short, or almost 3/16 short, and the lower bout is exactly 3/16 short. Let's look at the neck block and the tail block. So the neck block thickness is supposed to be 3 1/4 inches, and I am measuring 3 6/32, so it's a 1/16 of an inch short. And then the tail block depth is supposed to be 4 1/8. And this guitar measures at 4 inches. So it's 1/8 of an inch narrower. It's not as much as the width and the lengthwise, because my guess is these blocks on the insides don't shrink as much, so it's not allowing the instrument to shrink overall. But you can see when you look at the instrument, nearly all the binding has cracks and chips in the finish. And that's not necessarily from just the wear, it's from shrinking, the instrument kind of settling into itself. It is 94 years old, which is important to remember. So things move. Why that's important for me, as a guitar maker, I'm so obsessed with instruments and how to make them mine, and how to, my own perspective, and like how to play them, how to make them, how to change my expectation is kind of what this comes down to. This Martin factory book gave me critical dimensions for their stuff. I would take, when designing my own instruments, I would take these, figure out the ratio of upper bout width to lower bout width in the math, and when I was designing my own, I kind of followed along the same stuff. Plus a little bit of the golden ratio and some Donald Duck in there, which sounds silly, but there's a video coming. I use Donald Duck in my guitar making process, which is super fun. But I always felt like I had to keep these things as the standard. I mean, they were the holy grail. The measurements had to be exact. The measurement has to be the exact body length, the exact lower bout width. Like, I needed to make my stuff so perfect that I matched and was as good as what's in the book. But to be honest, you don't have to do that. Your instrument is going to move, it's going to change on you. A little variation is just fine, because this guitar sounds just as good as anything I've played, if not better. Obviously I wasn't able to play it because it was unplayable, but I was able to tune it to an open D, and just strumming, you can hear that the ratio of the top tone and the back tone is what I like, which is a minor third or pretty close. But it was just a monster. It just resonates. So knowing it's got the right stuff, I kind of wanted to measure the instruments that come through the shop so I can see where everything sits, where the proportions sit, because it helps me feel good about myself as a maker. Even though there's some variation, I'm doing, you know, what my favorite kind of things are. So it's been an honor to have this instrument in the shop. I just have to glue the neck on, and yeah, the neck isn't glued. So yeah, scary, huh? 1931. Just throwing it around. He's just throwing it around. But yeah, man, you've been doing this for a while. I trust myself and know my work, but the neck is actually amazing. It is a super soft C all the way through. It is not a V neck. It's incredible. So I'm going to measure that and keep that for myself too. But anyway, just thought I'd share a what's wrong with this guitar. I'm going to be doing a bunch of these videos with new builds that have things about them that I hate, and I'm okay saying that, and with old repairs, so we can figure out what's going on. I'll take pictures of everything so that you can hopefully see, and I'm learning to insert over my rambling. Apologize for that, but that's the story on this guy. It's a 1931 Martin OM, second year ever made, 251 of 251 guitars made that year. No logo on the headstock. So clean in the back. I wonder if I could do that. Anyway, cheers.